Welcome to Soar and Pair, Why Not Together,
Hi.
episode 32.
Hi guys. Hope you had a good week.
Yes, and remember Soar and Pair is soaring together to explore new adventures while inspiring others to create their own. I just thought I would do a few hand movements to it.
Yes, very descriptive.
I think, yes.
Demonstrative.
Thank you, I am. What are we talking about today, Sandy?
So today we're going to talk about, in light of, we just had a blue moon, the full moon and how it affects your emotions. And I thought it was an interesting topic. It affects everybody a little differently. So we're going to dive into that a little bit.
We will, but first, to your attention at the center of us and those on the podcast, we mostly finished our two skulls that we had been working on for about a month off and on, to honor Dia de los Muertos. And Dia de los Muertos is not connected to Halloween. For those of you, it's a celebration, Day of the Dead. It corresponds with All Saints Day for those who are Catholic, and it is interesting. A lot of people think it's part of Halloween, but it isn't.
Right, or negative, which it isn't.
Right, it's a day, it literally is celebrating and honoring those individuals, family and otherwise, that have passed on.
Right.
And when I was reading about it, it's like they invite them back and celebrate. So if you'll see all the vibrant colors that people dressed up with, yes, there's skulls involved, but that's the symbolism for bringing the dead,
somebody that's transitioned over,
right, back in, and to celebrate for 24 hours. It actually goes through tomorrow, and I just think it's a cool celebration.
I do too.
Some people have altars, makeshift altars in their home, where they actually put up photographs and memories of their families, friends, and loved ones who have passed, in order to think of them. And I think it's a beautiful way to celebrate, because I think a lot of times we sweep under the rug the painful memories of those that have passed. And it has been helpful for me in terms of, we've talked about it before, but both my parents passed away over 22 years ago, 8 weeks apart. And then of course my son's passing. You've had your grandparents pass.
Yeah. And my brother.
And your brother, of course. Yeah. And I think there's something we can learn from that kind of tradition. And I think this is a great symbolic reminder.
It's about celebrating your time with them and celebrating their life. And I think it's a beautiful thing. I agree with you. So we had fun, and it was a process for us going through this. So
right. And Sandy's skull is black, mine is white, at least the base of it. But then there's all kinds of colors, and
we were playing with it.
Yeah, and it's not perfect. Mine is definitely not as advanced as hers, but I don't think it matters. We just had fun.
No, I think it's beautiful. Yeah, not perfect, definitely needs more work, not complete back here, so I won't show you the back. But just, layering color and playing with it, seeing what we can create was fun.
It really was fun.
There we are.
And we promised to show it on the Day of the Dead, and so here it is. And it reminds me, 5 years ago I was noticing, because memories come up with Facebook, we actually dressed up as Day of the Dead skeletons. We should put that on Facebook again.
Yeah, we should.
I think we should put that on Soar and Pair. It was a lot of fun.
We didn't dress up this year, but we did take our granddaughter out trick-or-treating last night, and that I did put on Facebook. That was fun.
Yeah, Everly's almost 3.
Yeah.
And she's got it down already.
Oh, yeah.
She, thank you, love you. She was just
blowing kisses to people. And she was telling us, stay here, you wait. She wanted us to stay at the end of the driveway. She had this.
And she adopted a friend that we met on the street, a 13-year-old girl who was kind enough to let Everly go with her. And I don't know, we had a huge amount of candy by the time it was done.
Yeah, the kid made out like a bandit, and she'll probably want to do it again tomorrow. So that's on her mother.
Yeah. We sent all that sugar and everything home with her mother today,
Yes.
so.
Good luck.
But we really had fun. The other thing I wanted to mention was I did post on my YouTube channel and Facebook an original song called Always With You that I wrote for you
Yes.
when you were gone on vacation a couple years ago, and I had not published the song, and I wanted to put it up there because I entered a contest, a songwriting contest, I think called the American Songwriter Contest, and I wanted to put that original piece along with 4 others or 3 others, I think. So
I love that song. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
it's a pretty descriptive song. So if you want to hear it, go onto my YouTube channel, Jim Sorensen, take a listen, or it's also posted on our Facebook. So did a little music this week, or at least posted a little
Yay.
music. So that's a good thing. Yeah, so we've had fun. So let's talk about this blue moon. And I've always wondered, blue moon, does that literally mean the moon is blue?
No.
Why is it called blue moon?
It's because it's so rare. It's because it happens. It's anytime there's 2 full moons within a month, within a calendar month.
Right, and since a full moon happens, I think I was reading once every 29.5 days, it has to line up just perfectly.
Right, and it was 44 years ago that we had the last blue moon on Halloween.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
So
That's kind of cool.
yeah, it was interesting. It was lighting up the sky when we were out in the neighborhood trick or treating. So
yeah,
that
yeah. And I don't know about you, but the moon has always really affected me, and so I'm just really drawn to watching it. You know, the waxing and waning of it, and so I just find it amazing.
And before we get into the different ways, how has it affected you? I mean, when you say it's affected me, and if you don't mind me asking, in what
Well,
way?
you know, as a female, of course, it does affect me. You know, with females are definitely affected with the tide and flow, and then it also affects my sleep. I'll feel really energized. You know, within a few days of the full moon, I get real amped up, and I have a hard time sleeping.
That's interesting because I've been very sleepy all day today. Last
Yeah.
night, I just can't get enough sleep. In fact, when we put
That's a granddaughter thing.
but when we put our granddaughter down for a nap, I was just starting to drift off with her this afternoon, and I got up and my eyes I still feel. So it's interesting because I'm really sleepy, and yet you're amped up.
I'm amped up. Yeah.
But again, the story of our lives. She's usually awake. I'm going to sleep.
It's true.
It's kind of how we roll.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, the moon. Well, there's also beliefs out there in society that the full moon, can cause people to go crazy.
Right.
I mean, or crazier.
Lunatic.
Yeah, it does come. Lunar comes from the your Looney Tunes, your lunatic. All that comes from the moon.
Luna. Yeah.
Yeah. So does it make people crazy?
No, it just it magnifies or amplifies what's already there. And I think it tends to, you know how we all tend to have traits of our zodiac sign. I think it magnifies whatever traits are inherent in you.
Right. And I think what we were discussing earlier is that really brings up emotion, right?
Right.
So that's what we're really talking about, is that emotion.
Yeah, and that's why, and I mean, we'll get into some of this, but that's why it's such a good time, why you'll always hear that the full moon is a great time to set your intentions for the following month, because, everything's come up, it's magnified, it's illuminated, it's in your face. And so it's a good time to just kind of reevaluate where you're at and to set your intentions for the next month. And that's really where that comes from, is why it's such a good time.
Or you could just sleep through it like me.
You can do that too.
Just chill. Like, yeah, there's a full moon outside, good night,
Well, and see, that's a beautiful example. It affects everybody differently.
Right.
So.
Right, but what we were reading about is what we were discussing is how it magnifies those emotions. So I think you were talking earlier about how it's like light and dark, positive and negative. What do we mean by that?
Right. So everybody has the light and dark in them. That's the yin and the yang. And so whatever is the most prevalent in you in that moment is what will get magnified.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you're feeling is, or whatever you're going through is what will get magnified during a full moon. So you really do want to pay attention to that and kind of clear the deck. If it's not something you want to be magnifying or making bigger, you might want to check into that before the full moon so that you're magnifying what you want and not what you don't want.
Right, and it's
what you meant?
Yeah, and I think it's also an opportunity. It can get bumpy, right? Because if things are magnified and you're a little stressed about something that's going on in your life, or you're worried about something, or let's say you're worried about COVID or whatever's going on, life, politics, whatever it may be, that's going to get magnified.
Right.
And a lot of people think, oh my gosh, that's not a good thing, but things come up to the surface so that we can
deal with it,
so that we
heal.
Yeah, we can deal with it. Because I think we have a tendency, I know I do, when I don't want to deal with something, I'll just look the other way, Well,
yeah, I think you're right, though. We tend to, a lot of times people tend to see things as if it's difficult, it's bad, so therefore needs to be avoided. And it's really quite the opposite. It wouldn't be coming up if it didn't need to be dealt with.
Right.
In some way. And sometimes all you can deal with is this little piece over here, not the whole thing. And that's okay too. Just being gentle with yourself and forgiving of what you can and can't do.
Well, yeah, you don't want to try to solve your whole life.
It's not going to happen anyway.
Yeah, you're just going to get frustrated and
luckily you have chance and chance and chance again.
Right. So, it happens every 29 and a half days, and recognizing that, and we were reading about it too, a new moon is an opportunity to go within and kind of reset yourself, right?
Right. Yeah, the new moon is the time to reset and reflect and reevaluate.
Right. So, I think before there were lights and, we don't have to live our lives by the light of the moon, I think older cultures and societies really did use those cycles of the moon in real ways in terms of
the sun and the moon.
Yeah. I mean, I think it really played a much bigger part. But just because we have artificial light and we've got electricity and we're in our homes, I think it's important to go outside and see what's going on in the cosmos out there.
I completely agree.
Because it, not only magnifies emotion, another thing we were reading was it intensifies the feelings that are going on inside you.
Yeah.
Right?
So not only does it magnify what's happening, but it'll make it more intense. And so that's, like I was saying earlier, really we do need to pay attention to that. And, if you're willing to dive deep, great. If you're not, if you're only able to dive, to the shallow end of that pool, that's cool too. But to be aware, to really be aware of yourself and the traits within you that will get magnified, and just be aware that they're going to come up some way or another.
Well, and also be aware of how other people are acting and responding.
Good point. Excellent point. Yes. So not only how to handle yourself, but how to respond to others. Whether it means you need to be more patient with others, or that right now, the way I'm feeling, I need to step back. Or right now, I'm feeling good. It's okay to step forward.
Right.
Either way, whatever's in you.
Right. Exactly. So it's an opportunity to heal. It's an opportunity to maybe look at some things that perhaps you've been too busy to look at, or too distracted, or too afraid to look at.
Or hesitant. Yeah,
so
many reasons.
Yeah, I mean, you can fight against it, or you can go with
embrace
it.
Yeah. And use it as an opportunity. Really, is what I do. Is I like to use it as an opportunity to evaluate where I've been and to plan where I'm going. And then, it's like, oh, I did great here, not so great over here, but that's okay. I know what I need to work on.
Right. And being kind to yourself through this whole process, I think we've talked about it before, is so important.
Always.
Because it's just, life is messy. The moon cycles aren't, this isn't, this is going to happen exactly like this every, 4+ weeks. It isn't. I think, at least from the way computers are and the way movies are, we feel like life should fit into this beautiful little puzzle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
that just isn't going to happen.
No, and have this interesting ending, and all these highlights that we see on social media of people, either life is great or life isn't great. It isn't that way. It's full of ups and downs, it's full of lulls, and it's full of all those kind of things. And
the boring and the mundane.
Right.
Yeah, all of it.
What are you saying about me?
No.
I hope it's not too boring and mundane. But then again,
that's all part of it. Is my point. Is the highs and the lows, the boring and the not boring. It's all part of it, and it's more of a guiding light. Is the way I see it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's interesting that the moon illuminates, because when I think of that word illuminate, it really means to realize, to come to a realization of something maybe that you didn't know before.
Right.
So
not only is it obviously bright, but it also shines light on the darkest recesses. The things that, like we talked about earlier, the things you may have put to the back burner or have turned away from, it might shine light on those and bring them to the forefront for you. And so it's just another opportunity, guiding light, to look at things differently, or in the same way but in a deeper way, in a more clear way, because it's lit up.
And if it's bringing up emotions that aren't pleasant, perhaps they need to come out so that you can see what's on the other side of maybe that previous brick wall that was kind of blocking that part of that part of yourself, that part of your heart.
Yeah, exactly. And the willingness to look at those things. A full moon is a really good time to do that, because things are open and magnified and bright, and so they're just right up there at the surface, so it's an easier time to do that deeper work. Right.
And we're not by no means experts of the zodiac signs, but we're
really at least I am. I'm very interested in it.
Yes, I'm interested. I mean, maybe not as excited as she is about it, but it's still interesting. And we were reading about how each of our signs were affected by the moon. So what first of all, tell them your sign, because they don't know it.
I'm a Virgo, so it's very earthy sign, and with my sign, interestingly enough, I don't like to be in the limelight. I don't like the attention to be on me.
What?
I know.
And
shocking.
here we are.
And again,
it's not true.
Yeah.
And we just debunked all of that stuff.
Right. I told you. No, it's about pushing through for me anyway, it's about pushing through the things that make me uncomfortable, and I call it slaying the dragon of my fears.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And for me, I'm a Libra, and we just got through Libra month, and Libra is all about balancing. We were reading too how it's all about helping people negotiate and come together, and Sandy's like, boy, that just goes right into your people-pleasing tendencies. Just like you were built for that. I'm like...
Well, it's interesting, because it's like, don't take it too personally. This is what you were built for.
Right.
So it's like, okay, how to negotiate yourself through that. Just like with me, it's like, okay, I've got to push through some things that make me uncomfortable. We all do.
Right, and I'm sitting here trying to remember how the full moon affects Libra. What did help me out
I
here?
wrote it down.
I'm writing
It was about balance, and yours was,
balancing.
yeah. Yeah.
That's all I remember is balance, which is really.
I don't know where I wrote it.
Yeah. So, just all to me, everything is always about balance. So it's balancing the emotions that are coming up with, what I'm dealing with, and approaching it in a balanced way. I think honestly, balance is a very good thing to have. I mean, the Greek motto is moderation in all things, and so why are you
I
smiling
think
at
it's
me?
cute. Of course you do.
I look over, she's like grinning this huge Cheshire cat grin, which
Of
by the
course
way
it is.
was also in the moon there, Alice in Wonderland. Cheshire cat, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about balancing how I'm approaching something, even like a full moon episode or anything big in my life. I'm always looking at that, and so I have to admit, even though I was jokingly debunking, it's true. I kind of have that innate desire to negotiate, to bring the peace, to bring balance into everything I'm doing. Music, work, personal life, it's all there.
And, like we talked earlier, so you tend to bring peace and balance to any situation. So if you're working with two people who are just clashing, and right now both of their stuff is just huge and magnified, now's not the time. It's about the negotiation, knowing when to say, okay, this is the time that I'm not going to be able to do that. Right?
True. So it's interesting. I think whether you buy into the whole zodiac signs astrological thing or not, and I'm moderately interested in, Sandy's extremely interested in it. It's interesting to step back and go, I do have some of these tendencies or qualities,
right?
And I don't read my, what do you call it, astrology, horoscope. Thank you, or like I like to call it horoscope. I don't read the horoscope every day because I think that's, again, always looking for balance. I think that's out of balance where you're depending too much on the stars to tell you what to do. But on the other hand, they completely ignore and say that's just all a bunch of rubbish, as they would say in England. It's all a bunch of rubbish, and completely ignore it. I think you're missing some insight into
yourself. Yeah, I think there's definitely something to, when you're born under a certain sign, it doesn't mean that you're going to have every single trait, but that you're going to lean in that direction.
Right.
It's not cut and dry.
Right, and the full moon again energizes and amplifies what's already naturally coming through. Right? So it really is, so sometimes I feel like I'm the cat in the hat in my life, just trying to balance everything on my head and in my hands, and thing one and thing two are just torturing me. Yeah. So that being, all those things out there in life that do, come at you. No, so I think it's interesting to look at that in light of, what sign you're under. So it may be something interesting for you to explore.
And right now during the blue moon, things are just even that much more amplified.
Yeah, so the second moon in a month, on Halloween night, on a Saturday night, that's pretty intense.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I know a lot of people were having headaches, extreme fatigue. Yeah, migraine type headaches, fatigue, or like me, the energy shift where they feel amped up.
Right.
So it wouldn't be surprising if you felt one or the other, one extreme or the other, that pendulum swing.
Well, and it's all about shaking things up, because I think a lot of times things can get stale and stagnant.
It's about shaking things up, like the tide, when it goes back, it stirs up from the bottom and brings things to the surface. So
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, and so the moon not only affects the tides and the ocean, which obviously is scientific, and this is not scientific, let's just be honest, it's not scientifically proven, but there are a lot of studies out there that have looked at all this.
Yeah.
Some have said, crime has gone up. Others have said, not really.
Right.
Some have said, menstrual cycles are affected by that.
Definitely.
Others are like, maybe not. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of,
Yeah, I can say to that, this isn't scientific, but when I worked in the hospital, we definitely saw an increase on babies being born on full moons, and our ER was always full the night before, the night of, and usually the night after.
Right.
It was always just crammed full on those nights.
Well, and if what we're talking about, everything is amplified.
Right.
So if somebody is unstable, I think I was reading far back to Aristotle really believed that, some mental illness was caused by the full moon. That used to be a belief for a long time.
Well, because they were recognizing that things were getting amped up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So it's interesting, and I think there's a lot to be said, and I think to the degree that I think you're missing out if you don't take a look and do some self-reflection on how that full moon is affecting you.
I do too. And the other thing is, knowing that this is going to happen every month, I think it's a good way to keep yourself in check with the self-work. Like we were talking about the goal setting and the resetting and checking in at the new moon. It's a good way to remind you, oh, hey, how am I doing? Let's look at this.
Mm-hmm. And what isn't right? What is coming up that needs to be dealt with? What needs to be shaken up in me so that I can, face it and move beyond it?
Personally, I'm always looking for, not that I'm always doing the deep dive, but I always like to look at what's coming up for me and what's ready to be released, because anywhere I can lighten my load, I'm all about it.
Right. So how do we help people handle the full moon? How do we help them handle it? And I think you had written something down you wanted to share that I think is interesting.
So really, like we said, just be aware of yourself so you can understand yourself and where you're at, but also how others are going to react to you. Being aware of how you're projecting during that time and how others are responding to that, because you have to remember they're coming from a completely different space, and they may be feeling the opposite of you, or they may be feeling the same.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to read the room, right? As always,
right.
But it's just bigger right now. So if you know that the full moon energizes you, think of ways to harness this to your ability, is what I had written. It's just another way of saying the same thing. Really use it to your ability, use it as your guiding light, and play with it. Just play with it, have fun with it, and see what you can create.
I like that. I do have a question though. Why, when people pull down their pants, do they call that the full moon?
Do you really need this description? Let me show you.
No, she is just kidding. She is not showing you the full moon. I guess because there's a half. I don't know. I always wondered why. Seriously, I always wondered why people's.
Seriously?
I don't know.
You don't see it, huh?
No, I don't. Yeah.
We'll have to talk later.
It certainly isn't lit up, so.
It could be.
I suppose it could be. But then again, another mystery of the moon.
It's perfectly round. Look at it. You know you want to.
People do. And on that note, we'll end with a quote about the moon. Everyone wants to be the sun. to lighten up someone's life. But why not be the moon to brighten in the darkest hour?
Like that.
So that's pretty cool, because the moon is dealing with nighttime, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the shadows. And after all, you know, it's that shadowy part of yourself that you really have to take a look at and heal.
Right, right. And paying attention to the shadows, I think, can teach us a lot about ourselves, and it can help us to grow and just feel better, because the more you pay attention to those shadows, the more you can let them go. It's not about embracing the shadow and walking around in doom and gloom. It's about meeting it so that you can say goodbye.
Right, and you've got an opportunity once a month, except in October, where we had twice, to allow the moon to help you to do that.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
It is.
So to end here with a Sandyism, I thought I would share this one. A whole nubba level. I think we caught that from a scene on TV once, but we always say it to each other.
Yeah.
We really want to go to a whole nubba level.
Taking it up a notch.
That's right. That's right. So
Pretty self-explanatory
as we
on that one.
continue to use the moon to get us to a whole nubba level, we'll hopefully get there.
Yes.
But anyway, we want to thank you guys for hanging out with us again this week, and want to remind you to continue to comment on our YouTube and our Facebook, as well as listening to us. We appreciate our podcast listeners very, very much.
Hello.
On all the different platforms out there, from now there's Amazon to Google to iTunes to Stitcher and Podcast and all the rest of them, and Podchaser. We really do appreciate all our podcast listeners, and we look forward to taking you on this journey with us as we continue week by week.
Yep. Well, have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks so much.